Movie begins with Pippa and Thomas finally moving into their dream apartment. It has cost them a lot, but they are willing to take the risk. The sales agent shares that the owner doesn't rent to just anyone. And because the young couple are too happy, they barely read the contract and just put their signatures on the document. Pippa can't wait to enter her rebellious phase. She's all about herself and doesn't want blonde-haired kids right now. Thomas, a musician and ever-so-loyal boyfriend, agrees that they should focus on enjoying life. On their first night, they realize that they can clearly see what's going on with their neighbors. They look like they finna fudge. The windows help in showing almost the entire house. The married couple who live there are getting some action. And for a minute, Thomas and Pippa find themselves watching. But Pippa suddenly feels guilty, so she tells Thomas not to watch. Meanwhile, no one wants to watch the geriatrics across the way. Later that night, Pippa prepares a sexy getup for Thomas, but he's already sound asleep by the time she gets out of the bathroom. Girl, that man fakes sleeping. He's gay. Pippa works at an eye clinic called L'Optique with her friend Ari. Ari knows the deets on the neighbors and says it's actually good that they watch, especially if the neighbors are exhibitionists. The doctor there, Dr. Sato, gives Pippa a bird feeder as a housewarming present. Back home, because the couple don't know their neighbors' names, they start to call them Brent and Margot. One night, Pippa sees how nice Brent's body is. She wants to give herself a fistful, but can't see every crevice. So when she goes out, she buys some binoculars to see him clearly. She does prefer those who look more American Eagle-ish. Brent is a photographer, and he does all his photo shoots at his apartment. A female model walks in, and what started as a simple photo shoot soon turns spicy. Thomas and Pippa find it funny at first, until Brent and the model are both naked and are smashing it. Pippa encourages Thomas to watch while they do the nasty, but Thomas's corndog batter is released before Pippa is done. Pippa can't help but think about Brent cheating on his wife. So when they meet with Ari and Thomas's sister Joni, they tell them about their neighbors. The two think that the couple might be in an open relationship. Pippa wishes to hear what their neighbors are saying. That's when Joni mentions what Thomas did to spy on his crush when they were in college. It involved the use of a laser. Thomas can no longer back down when Pippa asks him to show her how. Thomas explains how sound bounces back on windows, and the vibration will then flow through the laser and back to them, allowing them to hear what their neighbors are talking about. The only problem is they have no way to make the laser bounce back to their apartment. As Pippa looks at the blonde-haired, blue-eyed man, her coochie starts purring. It so happens that there's a costume party that night at Brent's. Pippa decides to sneak in with Thomas. As soon as they get in, Brent picks her up and positions her for a photo. When Thomas joins in, Brent even helps them to strike a pose so they will look good in the shot. That's the first time Pippa gets to look closely into Brent's eyes. Thomas even catches Brent after a makeout session with a guest. In the middle of the party, Pippa quietly installs a small mirror. And just before they head home, they see Margot drowning herself in alcohol. Excited, the two immediately get on with their experiment after the party. They point the laser directly into their neighbor's apartment until they find the mirror Pippa left earlier. And with the help of some chalk dust, they trace where the light is. These two are clearly very unemployed. Thomas does his thing, and with a little tweak, they can clearly hear what Margot is saying. She's confronting Brent for cheating on her, but Brent denies all accusations and manages to turn it against Margot. So Margot ends up apologizing instead. But Brent is already pissed, and the argument quickly turns physical. Pippa keeps thinking about the fight even at work. Then Margot, whose real name is Julia, walks into the eye clinic. Pippa acts like she hasn't seen Julia before. Meanwhile, Thomas is busy with work when he sees Brent doing another photo shoot. And like what Brent usually does, he sleeps with the model right after the shoot. That model is fine. Back at the clinic, Pippa gives Julia an eye checkup and helps her grab a new pair of glasses. They hit it off pretty quickly, and Julia even asks Pippa to spend the weekend with her. When Thomas finds out, he feels like they should stop spying on their neighbors. Instead, they should focus on their own boring lives. But Pippa insists on meeting Julia. She feels like she has an obligation to tell her that her husband is trifling, but Thomas thinks it's a bad idea. That night, Pippa spies on the couple and sees Julia trying to seduce Sebastian. Despite apologizing for the fight they had, Sebastian still gives her the cold shoulder because he already nutted that day. Pippa meets Julia, and they talk about their personal lives. Julia reveals she used to be a model, and it's through a gig that she met her now husband, Sebastian. Julia wants to do more in life, but she doesn't have any skills. In fact, Sebastian was the one who got her a job in another studio. Julia admits that Sebastian loves her a lot, but they still have problems. She adds that she can never leave because she's nothing without him. Day after day, Pippa keeps on spying on her neighbors. She has developed an obsession, and with this comes the shame of having to lie to Thomas. She even pretends to be on her phone when Thomas walks in. One day, she sees Sebastian hide a used condom in the trash after having a threesome. Then Pippa remembers that Julia mentioned having a wireless printer. She sends a message to Julia using the printer, saying that Sebastian has been cheating on her and the proof is in the trash. Though confused, Julia checks the trash while Sebastian is asleep. She breaks down when she sees the used condom inside. Just then, Thomas wakes up and confronts Pippa. Suddenly, Julia grabs a knife and is about to stab Sebastian. Thomas wants to phone the police, but Pippa stops him. Luckily, Julia can't get herself to kill her husband. Thomas is so angry at Pippa, he throws the binoculars to the floor. The next day, he tries to make up with Pippa, and they have agreed to never spy on their neighbors again. But then, they discover that Julia unalived herself. Sebastian is beside her, trying to wake her up. Thomas blames Pippa for what happened and breaks up with her. He packs his things and leaves the apartment, leaving Pippa alone in her guilt. When Julia's glasses arrive at the office, Pippa phones her number even though she knows it'll go straight to voicemail. She breaks down and apologizes to Julia for what happened. The guilt keeps on haunting Pippa. Later that night, she sees Sebastian getting drunk, and she imagines comforting him. When she sees him walk out of the building, she follows him and ends up in a bar. Pippa sits away from Sebastian, but he moves and sits right in front of her. He thinks she looks familiar, but Pippa says her people all look alike. Sebastian starts a conversation explaining how cheating is not so different from using an adult toy. It's both meaningless. The only difference is, instead of an object, it's with a human. He adds that, like watching corn, it doesn't really change one's feeling towards a loved one. Pippa doesn't agree, but she listens intently. While Sebastian gets drunk, Pippa tries to have a profound speech, saying the grass isn't always greener on the other side. When Pippa starts talking about slaves and masters, I just side-eye her. Then Sebastian asks Pippa to go with him back to his apartment. He offers to take her photo, and Pippa agrees. It starts out slow, but Sebastian continues to ask Pippa to strip until she's naked. She acts all cutesy and demure, pretending she ain't never done this before. So he also takes off his clothes to make her feel comfortable. He says that he will have his latest exhibition soon. Then Sebastian suddenly breaks down. Pippa leans in for a kiss, and he doesn't resist. Sebastian goes down on Pippa's pig, and just before she finishes, Pippa tells him to go and get a condom. And when Sebastian returns, Pippa hops on him. Thomas is currently on his way home, carrying flowers for Pippa. As soon as he gets inside, he drinks something from the fridge and puts some in the bird feeder outside. Then he catches a glimpse of action in the neighbor's place. When he uses the binoculars, he sees Pippa riding the whitey in the opposite apartment. When Pippa wakes up the next day, she gets up right away. Still feeling confused after what happened, Pippa is even more shocked when she returns to their apartment. She finds Thomas's dead body hanging from the ceiling. Stricken by grief, Pippa lets the days pass without much care. Until one night, she finds the courage to meet Ari. She finally tells Ari what happened. Ari comforts her, saying that she shouldn't blame herself for Thomas's death. It was tragic, yes, but Pippa was technically single when she slept with Sebastian. She just got dumped by Thomas, so she should not feel guilty at all. Where's the to-be bestie when you need them to keep it 100? Pippa was wrong for what she did. Despite feeling sad, Pippa wants to see Sebastian again. Ari thinks it's ridiculous, but she wants to make Pippa feel better, so she accompanies her to Sebastian's exhibition. The place is packed, but when Sebastian sees Pippa, he barely gives her any attention since most of the women there slept with him. When he's finally called to the stage, Sebastian announces that his latest project was a collaboration with his wife. To Pippa's surprise, Julia walks to the stage, alive and kicking. Then the couple explains that their project was about the tragic story of a woman named Pippa. Then a naked photo of Pippa is revealed for everyone to see. One after the other, photos of her and Thomas are shown to the guests. Sebastian and Julia reveal that Pippa and Thomas were a happy couple whose love story went down the drain after Pippa developed an obsession. She was the stalker who kept spying on their neighbors. The last photo shows Thomas hanging from the ceiling. Some guests are so shocked they walk out of the room. It turns out that Julia and Sebastian have been watching Thomas and Pippa. Damn, now that's how you do a Tubi twist. Embarrassed, Pippa returns to Sebastian's apartment to look for the cameras. In a hidden room, she finds multiple cameras and photos of her and Thomas. She trashes the whole place as she breaks down. A few days after, she packs everything up. While she empties the bird feeder, she notices the dead birds outside the window. Meanwhile, Julia and Sebastian's project is extremely successful. In one interview, they show the lease that Pippa and Thomas signed. They basically gave their consent for their pictures to be taken and released. But Sebastian admits that they are not sure if Pippa and Thomas even read the document before signing it. Julia also admits to having created a narrative to get Pippa interested in them. Sebastian is bothered by Thomas's death, but Julia a cold-hearted beach. She's enjoying their success. Upon returning home, they enjoy wine that was gifted to them. Then their wireless printer starts printing notes from Pippa. The messages say that Thomas didn't unalive himself, and Pippa knows the couple did it. So Sebastian and Julia begin to chase Pippa until they reach the eye clinic. Pippa doesn't have any proof, but she's sure that Thomas wouldn't hang himself. The truth is, Julia poisoned Thomas's drink and then later staged his body to make it look like he hanged himself. Suddenly, Julia faints. Sebastian panics, so Pippa admits that the wine they was drinking was from her. She makes Sebastian look at her one last time before he loses consciousness. Then she drags their bodies under the machine and then burns the couple's corneas. Sometime after that, a new couple moves into Thomas and Pippa's apartment. Julia and Sebastian are now both blind. Pippa watches them from a safe distance. Finally, she got her revenge.